Namaskar and welcome to Sunset Television. I am Vishal Dahiya and you're watching our show Perspective, where we bring you detailed analysis of key national and international issues. Today we're going to talk about Inter-Services Organizations Bill 2023. Now, the government on Wednesday introduced a bill in the Lok Sabha to empower Commander-in-Chiefs or any other officers posted in tri-services organizations with disciplinary and administrative powers in respect of personnel serving in these theatre commands. Now, at present, the service personnel of Indian Air Force, Army and Indian Navy are governed by the provisions of the Air Force Act 1950, the Army Act 1950 and the Navy Act 1957, respectively. Now, under current norms, only officers of the respective services are empowered to exercise disciplinary powers over the service personnel under their respective service acts. Now, the Inter-Services Organizations Command, Control and Disciplinary Bill 2023 will also pave the way for various other tangible benefits such as expeditious disposal of cases, a saving of time and public money by avoiding multiple or duplicate proceedings, and also greater integration and jointmanship among armed forces personnel. As per the theaterization plan, each of the theatre commands will have units of Indian Army, the Indian Navy and Indian Air Force, and all of them will work as a single entity looking after security challenges in a specified geographical territory under an operational command. So today we'll try and understand a bit more about the theaterization plan and also why this piece of legislation is crucially important on this plan there. And for more on this, we're joined by a distinguished panel of experts. Let me first introduce them to you, beginning with, in the studio with me here is retired Major General Dhruv C. Katoch. He's the Director of India Foundation. Welcome, General Katoch, to our studios. We're also joined by two more gentlemen. Retired Air Marshal Anil Chopra is joining us. He is Director General of Centre for Air Power Studies. And retired Vice Admiral Shekhar Sinha is also with us, former head of the India's Western Naval Command. Welcome to both of you as well. Let me begin with you, General Katoch, and let's start by understanding a bit more about the correlation when we're talking about this piece of legislation, the plan of theatre commands as well, and what the bill says, this particular bill says. Why is it important?
Firstly, let us get down to the theaterization per se. Now, this has been a long-felt demand of the armed forces, and it is still a work in being. Now, basically, when we look at theaterization, we are looking at, you can say, the oceans. There could be two theatres there. We are looking at Pakistan as another theatre and China as another theatre. So the aim or the rationale behind the thought process was that there will be no duplication and all the resources can be employed in a synergistic manner through one theatre commander.
Okay.
As of now, we've got 17 commands, of the Army, Navy and Air Force spread all over. And once the theaterization comes in, they'll be reduced to about half a dozen or so. Now, that is generally what the purpose of theaterization was. It was supposed to get that element of synergy into your operational capability. And ultimately, or perhaps the ultimate aim would be that there would be the CDS who would be the operational commander of the entire forces. Now, I'm not sure if the CDS will be the operational commander or he will just be the administrative head and the service chiefs will continue with their respective functions. That is still a work in progress. But when we look into this particular bill, it talks about command, control and discipline. Now, most people in the country may not be aware of the fact that in the military, the powers of punishment only rest with the commanding officer. Now, besides the commanding officer, let us say there is a particular unit, an infantry unit, the power to punish any man in that unit rests only with the commanding officer, not with the brigade commander or the divisional commander or even the army chief. So, if now when we are moving into a tri-service environment and say there is a unit which has got personnel from all the services, then a problem really comes up as far as the disciplinary aspect is concerned, because there may be a soldier who is or an officer who is functioning under the Navy Act. Somebody else will be under the Air Force Act and a third person under the Army Act. Now, in a situation of that nature, for the commanding officer to carry out disciplinary proceedings, becomes a problem. And I think those sort of issues will be addressed as far as the Inter-Services Organization Bill 2023 is concerned.
Okay.
So I think it's a very positive step.
So it takes care of, that sort of basic, level ground field, level playing field. When we're talking about, these officers who will serve as part of the Tri-Services Command or the Theatre Command, which we are talking about, and ensuring that it becomes easier for the commanding officer or the commander-in-chief of that particular command. Let me bring in, Admiral Shekhar Sinha here as well. Admiral Sinha, we already have a Tri-Services Command in Andaman Nicobar. So what's the experience out there? As in, because we learn from our experiences, and as General Katoj was also pointing out, there is a plan as well, and then accordingly we change our plans or tactics and strategy as well.
Vishal, thank you very much for getting me on your show. Let me give you a very practical experience, having spent about 3.5 years in the headquarters IDS, where the Tri-Service Commands for all ADAM and operational issues used to report. The problem was, as General Katoj said, that personnel of the three services are governed by their respective acts of their service. So as a Commander-in-Chief of, let us say, Andaman Nicobar Command, as a if I had to try out by a court-martial an Air Force officer or an Army officer, I could not try him out. I had to send the whole proposal to the nearest Army commander or the Air Force commander, who would then institute a court-martial for him, and then he will award the punishment. So it was really causing a lot of hurdle in disciplinary action of the officers and men, because they were being governed by their own acts, and rightly so. Therefore, it was necessary to get them into a joint services or a combined services act, and give the equivalence that a commander-in-chief, irrespective of which service he is, he can try out or he can order in court-martial or investigation on officers and men of the other two services if they are serving under his command, his jurisdiction. Why it requires? Because these acts are the acts of Parliament. 3 acts that you mentioned, Air Force, Navy, and the Army. These acts are of the Parliament, and therefore no other authority less than the Parliament actually enact another act which will be superimposed on all this. So I think broadly this is a very good thing to happen, and I hope that it goes into various other sectors. For example, if there are land in Andaman Nicobar or under the jurisdiction of SFC, that land, let us say, in the books of Air Force, then the commander-in-chief, if he happens to be Army guy, he cannot transfer and he can't use that land. And therefore, we have had massive problems for everything to come back to service headquarters and depend on the whims and fancies of the service headquarters to utilize that land which was required operationally for a service operation. So I think I have managed to convey this in the perspective, Vishal.
Okay. Very clearly, looks like, this is going to make it a bit more easier there. Let me bring in Air Marshal Chopra here as well. Air Marshal Chopra, from your point of view, sir, if we have to understand why and how this will further simplify things on the ground, and not only in terms of for the commander-in-chief, but what it means for the for the men and officers serving in those tri-service commands.
Yeah, I must tell you, Vishal, that I'm extremely happy that such a bill is coming. It's only come about 20 years late. I wish it had come much earlier. Why I say that is because, we have formed the Tri-Services Command, we got the IDS, we had the ANC, we had the SFC, all came up about 20 years back, and thereafter now, more recently, we have had these, the Defense Space Agency, the Cyber Agency, the Special Forces Divisions. There are many other Tri-Services institutions, the NDC, the DSSC, and many other places where the Tri-Services people are there. There was a need that the commander there must have the authority to take administrative and disciplinary action against individuals. It's for officers, it's for other ranks. So I think it was badly overdue. I've been a member of the Armed Forces Tribunal. I've seen many types of cases that come into tribunals, and I thought that this is a very welcome change. I must also tell you, as the other two very distinguished speakers have said, that there is so much more needs to be done if we really want jointness, which should have been done long time back. And we have been in service. While I was in service, we used to talk about it. Look at the HR policies, the way we write the ACR, the way our promotion policies, the way we have the rank structures. What the Army considers as the JSO, what the Air Force considers the SNCOs. There are differences. The equations are different. What mess, who will be living in? There are issues. So there are a large number of issues. See, if we are ultimately heading for theaterization and more joint organizations, there is a need that the three services come on same footing. I must tell you, as of today, I would like to be serving under an officer. They're the most liberal writing in the ACRs. And the worst thing will perhaps be to be under a naval officer, because he will be perhaps writing the way a good ACR should be written.
Admiral Sinha is smiling. Air Marshal Chopra looks like he's in agreement.
No. So the point I'm making is that as of today, no, I'm not blaming any service. Each one of us has got a different set of experiences. In the Air Force, if you have 1 year service left, you can still become a CNC, but you can't become the same in Army, for example. So there are a large number of issues that we need to get on the same wicket, so that when we do real jointness, these little issues, are already sorted out. And it's not that the government has been pointing out some of these things to us. Within the services, I think we have an inertia, and we have been reluctant to push some of these things. And I'm so happy that this bill will come. At least the three services will sort out the disciplinary and administrative problems. Yes.
Okay. Indeed, a well thought out plan being mooted through the legislation. But those issues which are being pointed out by Air Marshal Chopra there, I'd like to bring them to you, General Katoch. And in the initial response, you also said that this is a process that is theaterization, putting in place theater commands, which is, a work in progress as well. And this is a part of that overall structure which we're talking about. In terms of what needs to be done, in terms of what more should be done, of course, there are individual acts, independent acts for all three services. That's a different issue. But then, apart from bringing in this jointmanship, what more should be done? Because once these commands are put in place, they will be the first line of defense.
Actually, when the commands are put in place, that will be the only line of defense. I mean, that is that we can call it the first line, but I would also call it the last line of defense. Because when that goes, then you say everything is gone. Ultimately, when we're looking at, when we're looking at this process, when we look at what happened in the United States, it took them a very long time. Because over the years, like now, since even prior to 1947, we had the armies have been, Army, Navy, and Air Force have existed for a very long time, and you had a set method of working, and set codes, set procedures, etc. And post-independence, we have continued with those. But modern warfare is going to be different, and the way it will be fought will be totally different to say. How we fought the 47-48 conflict with Pakistan or the 62 conflict with China. I mean, it'll be totally different to those conflicts at least. And it'll much more resemble like the US war on Iraq. I mean, just to put it into perspective. Now, when we are looking at that future conflict, there is no single service which can fight this war. We will have to fight it. Even if it's a land war, the Navy will have to come into play. You see, that is the nature of warfare today. So regardless of who is fighting this battle, all the three services, their resources will have to be coordinated and used in a coordinated manner. That will create the synergy. Now, somebody may say, if you're fighting a land battle, how does the Navy get in? The Navy has a very important role in choking up the seas. Right? The Navy can have a very important role in hitting out at certain enemy ports. So you see, to say that only one service has a role, that may not be correct. And now, of course, we have got other agencies also involved. It is going to be a whole-of-nation effort. Now, the problem which is there is that because we are working on fixed rules which are set and laid down by Parliament, once you get onto the jointness, then some of those rules may have to be changed. Right?
Now, that's the motive of the bill here.
That is the mode. So command, control, and discipline has now been catered for. So when we are looking at a future theatre commander, and say he's, let us say there's an Air Force theatre commander looking after one of the theatres, and he wants to move an army unit somewhere. Now, because it is under his command and control, that movement can take place. He doesn't have to refer back to the service chief. And similarly, if there's an army chap and something has to be moved off the other services, now that movement can take place. Obviously, it is not going to be an ad hoc movement, because in the respective theatres, if there is a naval theatre commander, he will also have as his, next in line, the number 2, as they call them. They will be from the Air Force and the Navy. And the same system is applied if there's an Air Force or an Army commander.
Okay.
So that advice, that level of advice from the other services at the 3-star level will also be present. So it will not be a sort of a unilateral decision. But now it is enabling. You've got that power. And I think we have to move towards that. There may be certain, usually certain services, they have certain challenges as far as going ahead with this is concerned. And there are very logical reasons for that. But we will have to work around those systems so that we can use the optimum capability of each of the services for the end state which the nation wishes to achieve.
Indeed. Indeed, the service of the nation is the end goal, the ultimate objective which is to be fulfilled, and that is why this joint venture is being focused so much on. Admiral Sinha, as both the gentlemen here are pointing out, in terms of, adjusting ourselves, our strategies, our tactics to the modern warfare, and that is where the concept of theatre commands comes in place. So what more, according to you, needs to be done? You've been there, you've seen how, sort of a tri-service command functions or the issues there involved. What is it that we can do apart from, bringing in changes to these acts which govern the command and control and discipline structure?
Vishal, that's a good question that you have asked. Second, big changes that are required to be done, that government also gives the operational powers within the Joint Service Command at various levels, starting from Commander-in-Chief right up to the level of commanding officer, who may be having officers and men from other commands also working on their charge, and they should be able to give them order, an operational order to utilize their machines for a joint purpose. Joint warfare is necessary because we want to bring in the maximum firepower onto the target, and for doing that, it has to be from all, Army, Navy, Air Force. And that has to be activated to make sure that the objectives of the country, the end state of the country, is achieved in the shortest minimum time and with all the resources that is available. So so this is one important, that all the powers also need to be, delegated to the all 3 services commanders at various levels in a joint warfare scenario. So this is one very important. The another important point that I personally feel that, the service headquarters, sort of getting involved in the operational issues of those commands, that will get minimized only when we have these enabling rules, making the commanders-in-chief of the Joint Service Commands totally responsible and enabled to take those decisions, which was not possible right now because of the existing individual acts.
Okay.
As Chopra rightly said, that all 3 services have different, standards of marking, their promotion, their other issues always get impacted. And I really, very nice of him to bring out 3.5 years that I was in IDS. I used to write the reports on all 3 services. And there are many times when, as a naval officer, what I had written in my service, if I go to the air headquarters to Air Marshal Chopra, who was the air officer personnel, he would say, he will never move. He will have to be demoted because you're not enough number. Though you have written that he's a very good guy. And if I go to the army, the MS would just throw it. He said, come on, sir, this is just not done. So these things we learn over a period of time.
Okay.
And therefore, they're making a standard procedure for reporting is very, very important.
Okay.
Air
Marshal Chopra, another important aspect which I can gather from the views expressed by you when we're talking about theatre commands or tri-service commands is the issue of logistics as well. how do we deal with that? And you know, do you believe that with this bill in place, command, control, and, you know, disciplinary structure is unified, then this will have an impact on that aspect also, because it's all about logistics as well?
Absolutely, Vishal. I totally agree with you that it is going to make a change on many, many issues, operational, administrative, and logistics. But before that, let me, explain a few more things. Firstly, of course, often the Air Force is being told that Air Force is the ones who are not allowing the theaterization to be pushed. But I must tell you that I think theaterization is on, and everybody has to be on board. We have to just find whatever the challenges are. We have to circumvent. Many countries have taken a top-down approach. The government, if required, has to push it down their throats. The services, all of them, all three of them, have their biased upbringing. They have got used to. The senior generals have spent 40 years, and so has the admirals and the air marshals, and therefore they will have their own mindset. But that mindset can be changed. If there is a requirement to have a group of ministers, I think it's time so that some decisions can be taken. Today, all the apprehensions are in public domain, and therefore we need to get going on some of these things. As far as the CDS is concerned, I personally feel, yes, he has to be a commander of the theaters, but presently the CDS is wearing 3 hats. I think this is not a great idea. The DMA jobs perhaps can be by another general. The CDS himself must remain a theater commander, and the service chiefs should have their own chiefs of staff committee, because after all, they are going to look after the bases, they are going to look after procurements, they are going to look after many, many other aspects of positioning of assets. So I think the theaterization is on. The Air Force is not hesitant. Air Force has apprehensions about some of the assets. Those assets can be put in a central pool to begin with till the things improve. And we need to go ahead. And my personal opinion, I'm saying it on television, is that a group of ministers should now be set up. Let them take inputs from everybody in various stakeholders, and then the country can take a final call. But I do believe that if the CDS has to take on operational role, he must shed some of the other roles that he's currently having, because otherwise his hands and plate will be absolutely full.
Okay, indeed, those are the issues which will have to be dealt with. General Katoch, you've been listening patiently, to all these aspects. Logistics is the one aspect I pointed out. The other few pointed out by, Air Marshal Chopra and Admiral Sinha as well. Quick concluding comments from you on the way forward from here onwards, because we've almost covered, most of the journey in terms of, planning it, putting it in place, and with this bill, we've taken one more step ahead.
Vishal, very frankly, integration has taken place to quite a large extent. When you look at the Andaman Nicobar Command, the Strategic Command, etc. But certain points like what Admiral Sinha brought out about land use, I think that needs to be incorporated immediately, and it is doable. It requires another bill. So that can be done, say, within a month or so. There are certain issues which I think will take much longer, right? Especially as far as operational capability or the command and control structures are concerned, but that can be done. The second, something which can be done very, very quickly is really logistics. And that is very, very doable. And I think we should focus on what we can do immediately and let the others be a work in progress. Within 5 to 10 years, I'm quite certain all the systems will be in place.
Okay, wonderful. Nice to hear that, and we'll be looking forward to that and having more discussions on this thing. Meanwhile, thank you so much, Major General Dhruv Katoch, Vice Admiral Shekhar Sinha, and Air Marshal Anil Chopra as well, for sharing your valuable inputs and insight. As you heard from the gentlemen, the esteemed guests whom we had on our show from all three services, their views on the theaterization of commands. This particular bill, Inter-Services Organizations Bill 2023, which talks about putting in place a unified command, control and disciplinary structure when we're talking about tri-services commands or jointmanship. There are other issues as well which need to be dealt with, and we will continue to have a discussion on those aspects also. Till then, keep watching Sunset Television. Thank you.